All right, I want to talk to you about a Nissan fundoplication that I went through laparoscopically on the 1st of February. What I want to be able to do is give you 21 useful hints that you might be able to use if you're planning on doing this. Um, I've been to the hospital for various reasons over the last 2 years for 5 different operations, and the Nissan fundoplication was the latest, and I've learned a lot from the first one to this one. So first thing I want to say is take some type of note. Take a notebook so that you can write notes in, record how you're improving, any kind of questions you might have for the doctors after all of this, because when you come out of your operation, the anesthesia will leave you very forgetful. So take notes so that when the doctor comes in, you have them written down. When you meet the team, you'll meet the anesthesiologist, you'll meet the residents, you'll meet any helper doctors and the main doctor. Get all their names down. And one of the things that I have found is that anesthesia makes me nauseous. So one of the things I talked to the anesthesiologist about, and I don't remember the name, but it's a little nausea patch that they can put behind your ear so that when you wake up from your operation, you're not feeling nauseous and want to throw up. And I definitely believe that this is one operation that you don't want to feel like you're throwing up afterwards. So the little patch behind the ear for nausea might be something you want to talk to the anesthesiologist about. The other thing I did before the operation was I did get a dietitian assigned to me, which I found invaluable afterwards, because I had so many questions about what's in the liquid diet, what can you have, what can't you have, what's in the soft diet, what can you have, what can't you have, all that. And it was nice to have a dietitian assigned to me that I could either call or email and get all those answers. Also, it's very important to know what to expect when you go in for your operation. I went in for my operation February 1st. They wanted me there at 5:30 in the morning. Operation started at 7:20, and I think I was done with everything by 10:20. I got a cat that wants to squawk in the background. And what happens between 5:30 and 7:20 was they get you assigned to a bed, they do some blood work. If they need to, they'll do a COVID test. They'll get you some IV fluids, and you'll get to meet the team. 7:20 starts the operation. One of the things I did that was very interesting is, and it made a difference, is when they wheeled me into the operating room, before they put me under the anesthesia, I made sure that everyone there, I thanked everybody. I thanked everybody for what they do. And the anesthesiologist actually leaned over and said, "You're the first one that's ever thanked us for this." And it made a difference. It made a difference in how everybody approached the operation. And all I did was I just said, "I just want to thank everyone here for the effort that you're putting into this, and I appreciate it." Post-operation, start taking notes. I woke up around 10:30, 10:15, 10:30, and I started writing notes at about 11. And in trying to read, I wrote probably a half page of gibberish from 11 to about 12. About 12:30, my notes started making sense. But that just tells you how much the anesthesia works on you. Know the hospital routine. That's really important because that'll keep you from being frustrated. I know, like at the hospital I went to, that the post-op nurses are extremely busy. They've got a lot of patients, and a lot of people are not waking up from anesthesia as easily as I did. So they didn't really have a lot of time for me, but I knew that going in because I asked the post-op nurse, how many patients are you taking care of? And are any of them very problematic? And they had one person coming out of an operation with dementia, and they had another person who just delivered a baby and was, for some reason, really having postpartum depression. And the other thing is, in post-op, you should assess how you feel. And I know for me, it was very difficult in post-op because from the rib cage down, I felt nothing. I mean, where the operation was, where the stitches were and everything, from the rib cage down, I said my pain level was 0 or 1. But from the rib cage up to my neck was probably a 7 or 8. And they said that was the effect of the gas they had to use to pump stuff up so they could get in and see the stomach and all of that. My collarbones, my chest bone, and all around my neck, it really, really hurt. One thing I had to do while I was in post-op was try to see if I could lay on my right side or my left side, anything other than on my back, because I am a very heavy snorer. I snore loud enough at home that sometimes the neighbors, in the next house call and say, I'm so noisy. So I had to find out if I could lay on my left or right side without pain. And I found out that turned out all right. Know what the hospital discharge routine is going to be, because you'll probably spend the night. The next day, you're going to go through discharge. And it also helps to help you know when you might be able to get a bed, not in post-op, but in the regular hospital. In the hospital I was in, discharge start around noon, and they take about 2 hours to get all the paperwork and talk to the discharge nurse and sign stuff and get the wheelchair lady that'll wheelchair you out. It takes about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, and also to get the pharmacy lined up with any medications that you might need. So by knowing that, they told me in post-op that they've got a room for me at about 11:30, 12 o'clock, which means they've got the room, but the person getting out of there is still going to probably take 2 or 3, 4 hours. So I knew that I wouldn't be in the room till maybe 4 or 5. One thing I asked for in post-op was for what they call a coughing pillow. If you need to, and this everything that could go wrong did go wrong, in that I had hiccups in post-op, I had sneezes, and a lot of coughing. And what a cough pillow is something you can hold against your stomach so that it gives you some compression, so when you cough, everything doesn't jiggle and really hurt. Got into the regular hospital bed, so cough pillow is important. Got into the regular hospital bed around 5-ish. I knew that this particular hospital I was in, they do the nurse change at 7. So between 5 and 7, my nurse really didn't have a whole lot of time to spend with me, because they're working on getting their documents done and transferring the knowledge base into the night nurse and all of that. So, you get a couple hours there to just relax and take notes. At 7 o'clock, the night nurse came in, wanted to know if I wanted anything to eat or drink, and I said, sure. And they brought me 2 Jellos, 2 boxes of the little boxes of juice, an apple juice and a cranberry juice, and 2 lime sorbets, little tiny ones. And to eat the 2 Jellos, drink the 2 boxes of juice, and to eat the 2 lime sorbets, which would normally take me about 2 minutes. It took me over an hour of just taking little tiny bites, little tiny sips. But I got them down in an hour and I felt pretty good. The night nurse was spectacular. I found out that the night nurses had a full number of patients, but a lot of them were just going to sleep the night away. And so I got to use the night nurse for a bunch of rehabilitation stuff. One of the things they asked me is if I wanted to try drinking some broth. And I said, absolutely. I tried, in the course of the night, I tried a chicken broth, a vegetable broth, and a beef broth. And I found out that of the three broths, the beef broth was the one I liked the best. The other thing I got to do with the night nurses, once I figured out their schedule, was I went on 3 walks. And more than anything, those walks will help get rid of that chest pain, that shoulder pain, they called it like degassing. It helped get rid of all the upper body ache that went with the relieving of the gas that came out from having your stomach pumped. So I went on 3 walks, over the night, actually 4 walks, had broths, I've had all that food. In the morning they were supposed to give me a swallow test to see if I could swallow things, and the night nurse explained to the doctors that all this stuff I had to eat over the night and I didn't have any problems, and that I'd gone on 4 walks. So I didn't have to do the swallow test. I didn't have to do any kind of ambulatory test. And the doctors they come in very early in the morning, the second day, and they come in, I guess they do their rounds of the people they worked on the day before they go into surgery. So I saw my doctors at about 6:45 in the morning, and they asked me a bunch of questions, and they looked at the little incisions and poked around on my stomach and thought everything went well. And they'll ask you, do you have any questions? And a lot of times you just sit there and go, well, 6:30 in the morning, I can't think of any. But there are 2 questions you need to ask the doctor that I found very important. Number 1 is, how did the surgery go? And number 2, were there any complications? So how did the surgery go? Were there any complications? Have your notebook out, because you'll forget, at least I would. And that's something that helped a lot. And they said surgery went well and there were no complications. On the day that I got discharged, I was able to have breakfast and lunch. They were going to discharge me at 11:30, but I went ahead and ordered lunch knowing that it takes till about 2 or 3 o'clock to get out of there. For breakfast, I had a peanut butter protein shake. That thing was incredible. It was delicious. And I had no idea that, that was something I could have. So I enjoyed it. It took about 35 minutes to drink a 1 cup worth of protein shake, but that gave me an idea for some things I could have at home. And of all things, for lunch, I had a pureed chicken noodle soup. So it had chicken in it. It was chicken noodle, just looked like baby food. But they gave that to me at the hospital. One thing that was interesting that I didn't do that I would have done if I had thought about it is ask for a painkiller just before they released me to go home. The reason is I didn't feel any pain in the hospital, but when they started moving me around, the surgery sites and all of that started to be a little uncomfortable. And the ride home from the hospital to our house, we hit some bumps in the road and stop and go traffic and some rough pavement, and that really kind of hurt. So in hindsight, I would have asked for maybe some painkiller just before getting into the car. There's a thing, what's it called? A sphygmometer. It's a clear blue thing that you hold up to your lips and you take a big deep breath in to see how deep you can breathe. Well, they gave me one of those to take home with me, and I tell you, if you don't get one, ask for one, and if you do get one, don't forget to take it home. Because one of the things that I found over the days at home is because the diaphragm was in shock, I tended to breathe really shallow. And one of the things you need to do is be able to breathe deeply. And as you breathe shallowly, more shallow, it got to where the diaphragm area and all that really started to hurt. And when I took first couple of breaths on this big nometer, I think that's what it's called, but it's a breathing thing. And you breathe in, and I could only get it to like 1,000. And by the 10th breath, I could get it up to 2,500, maybe 2,700. And that really helped a lot with keeping the pain away from the area of the hernia suture. One other thing, so those are some of the things that helped me. I'm not saying that they may help you, but they might. There's some ideas. One other thing I found once I've gotten home, and today is day 18. I was going to try to get this video in way earlier. But one of the other things I found out when I was home is that the very first thing I got at the hospital were 2 juice boxes that you have the little straw that you stick in. And on my discharge paper it says don't drink anything through a straw. I got juice boxes. And the other thing they said was in the discharge papers is when you eat, sit completely upright and don't lay down or get from a vertical position for 2 hours after you eat. Yet the meals I had in the hospital, I had in the hospital bed, and after eating them I laid the bed back down and was horizontal, and it didn't seem to do anything. So just food for thought. At home I have my meals in my Barco lounger, which probably leans me back a little bit. And the solution for me is if anything gets stuck, you'll know. It'll feel like you swallowed a golf ball and it just gets stuck. What I do is just stand up and walk. When I was on the liquid diet, a lot of times I would drink my liquid diet while I'm just walking around in the house getting some steps in. And the ability to have my diet, my liquid foods, while I walked was a lot better than sitting in a chair, leaning back, and have it get stuck. And now that I'm on soft, and you're going to lose weight. I lost 8 pounds on the liquid diet. I put 6 of them back on in the soft diet. And those are the little things that help. And just, I can't stress enough how that little notebook helped me with asking questions of the doctors, the nurses, knowing their schedule, knowing how the hospital operates. And like the night nurse told me that it's really quiet between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And so between 2 and 4 I got in 3 of my 4 walks. And they went to lunch at midnight, so 11:30 is not a good time to talk to them because they're doing around real quick before they go to lunch. And 1 o'clock was also not a good time, 1 to 1:30, because they just got back from lunch and they're doing their rounds again. So just know their schedule and have a positive attitude. I'm pretty pain-free right now. Soft foods, a lot of ramen noodles, those go down pretty easily. Everything else I'm just still working on, but it's been 18 days and I don't have any complaints. But what I hope to be able to do with you is to give you some ideas about, like the pain patch and things like that. But I did okay. It wasn't that bad. To not have GERD anymore and not have to throw up. Oh, one thing I can do that other people that I've seen I can burp, I can sneeze, I can cough. Throwing up is one that's still, you take too much food in and it wants to come back up, but it won't. So throwing up is not one of those options. You kind of dry heave sometimes, but the food will go down if you stand up and walk around. Other than that, I think that's everything. If you got any questions, put them in the comments below, and hopefully I was able to give you some ideas about how to get through your procedure and make things go a little bit easier for you. Thanks.